All right, gentlemen, it's our last week talking about the Book of Boba Fett. Can you believe it?
Yeah, it's gonna be sad not having any Boba Fett coming up this weekend or this Wednesday.
Why? It won't be any different than when we had chapters 5 and 6 of Book of Boba Fett.
That's not right, Nate. Why you gotta do that to me?
Yeah, I guess you always hurt the ones you love. We'll give our official reactions to the Boba Fett finale. BB Nate will give us a crash course on the Court of Owls, and there were just way too many trailers this week to count. We'll talk about our favorites. This is Tatooine Sons.
It's true. All of it.
What is the name of the porg on the Millennium Falcon?
Force is strong in my family.
What do you think his name is? It's a big moment.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Maybe Turbis?
Do or do not. There is no try.
Turbis? Pablo, if you're listening to this live stream, that porg's name is now Turbis. It's a good Star Wars name.
We're not done yet.
These guys recorded an awesome podcast called Tatooine Sons. Everybody listen to it.
You got your Court of Owls pretty much squared away, right?
Yeah, I'm probably going to just grab Gray Scarf too and then have two cosplays. Because one could just be Daredevil from Defenders.
Okay.
Because he...
So you're talking about cosplaying for Pensacon.
Right,
you got a Court of Owls costume going for that. Sam, you're working on...
I'm trying to get the Riddler from the new movie going. I think it'll look pretty cool once I'm done with it. If it works out, it's actually very difficult to find the stuff for at least for cheap. I'm not made of money. So.
Right, none of us are. We may get me as Cobb Vanth.
We're trying to.
Maybe it should be Cobb Vanth from Vanth Refrigeration.
Vanth.
That was good. Funny story about that.
Okay.
We were sitting there watching, I think, Daredevil, or you were playing a game or something, and I was scrolling Facebook, and I saw a meme. It was that meme, Cobb Vanth Refrigeration, and so I sent it to Savannah because I figured she would, appreciate it. It's funny.
She didn't get it, did she?
She did, but the issue was I forgot that when I sent it to her, she was literally in the process of watching the finale.
Oh god!
But it wasn't. She wasn't, worried about it. I just said,
"Well, we should probably start the show." So, welcome to Tatooine Sons, a pop culture podcast. We are the only fan podcast to name a canon Star Wars creature and to be endorsed by Ryan Johnson. We believe that pop culture is the mythology of our generation, that there is a story written on our souls. These myths speak to that story, and that is why we are talking about the Book of Boba Fett finale and the Court of Owls and all of those trailers from the Super Bowl. I am David. I'm the dad.
Hi, Dad.
Hi, Dad.
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm honored to be joined every week by my two amazing sons. Nate.
Yes?
Tell us about what you got going.
Well, beware the Court of Owls is certainly a warning the Batman should heed.
The Batman, as in the movie.
As in the movie.
The Batman, all right.
I gotta really find a way to better clarify.
I know, it's hard. Samuel?
Yeah, the Book of Boba Fett finale is as divisive as anything in Star Wars, but we just don't get it for this one. Like, we really just can't see it.
I had a good time.
I thought it was great. But what are you talking about, Dad?
It's a trailer over, though, this week. I'm not sure if we can handle it all, but we're going to try. But before we do that, I want to thank you guys for listening to the show. We don't really talk about it much on the podcast, but it's because of you guys every week tuning in to every episode that we, for the last 2 or 3 months, have been in the top 100 podcasts in our category on Apple Podcasts in the US, in UK, in Canada, in Australia. We've gotten there in Germany. We've gotten there in New Zealand in the entertainment news category. And so we can't be in that category or in the charting in our category without you guys listening. So thank you so much for tuning in every single week. We really, truly do appreciate it. If this is your first time listening to Tatooine Sons of it's pop culture still. Right?
It is still pop culture.
Are we switching? That was really wild. That was like stereo and everything. We didn't switch back to Star Wars or anything. I was almost called it. Here's the thing. You need to know this because this Friday, we are going to actually have an episode where we recap. Is that
recap?
Recap?
Not recant. Recant would be
recant would be like
back.
taking back.
Taking
That's not
back.
it. No, recount was the other thing I was thinking.
That
of.
works.
The story of Turbis the Porg, and that you hear in the opening of this show and the Ryan Johnson moment and all of that. And here's the reason why. We were at Pastor Stewart's house a couple of weeks ago, and Pastor Stewart has listened to probably the last 30 episodes, 40 episodes of this show, weeks of our show, not actual episodes, but weeks of shows from it. And we hang out with Stewart all the time. You go over to his house every Sunday night and hang out over there with Jay and some other guys over there. It's like Stewart, he knows the show and he knows our story. And we were over at his house a couple weeks ago, and I realized in the conversation that he didn't know the whole story of Turbis the Porg. And it's been well over 2 years since we've done that. And I figured there's a lot of you listening to this show since we've kind of switched over from Star Wars to full pop culture. And we've now gotten all of you that are helping us become a part of the, charting on Apple Podcasts and everything, that probably know just bits and pieces of the Turbis the Porg story. And there's a lot more to it. Stuart was kind of blown away by the end of the night when he was hearing all about that. So we're going to talk about that Friday. We're excited about that. I do want to read a review that we got from one of our great listeners, from Michael Hoover. He is actually the host of A Certain Point of View podcast, and we interact on Twitter a lot, and he gave us a review a couple weeks ago. So I want to read this and thank you and encourage you guys to check him out as well. A Certain Point of View podcast. Look it up. His review says, let's be honest, there are a lot of toxic podcasts out there in the nerdom. Tatooine Sons is the opposite of that. A podcast that isn't afraid to be honest about their opinions, but always does so through the lens of how much they love Star Wars and the MCU, etc. Highly recommend. Long live Turbis with that. So thank you so much, Michael, for that. We appreciate that. And thank you to our sponsor, cufflinks.com. They have over 3,000 items on their website, from Star Wars and Marvel and DC and Lord of the Rings and NFL and NCAA and Major League Baseball and the NBA and everything else that you can think of. If you're a Rams fan, go on there and get an LA Rams cufflinks, because congratulations to you guys for winning the Super Bowl on that.
If you're a Bengals fan, you can still
go on there and get cufflinks too. They're not discounted or anything because you lost. All right. But anyway, thank you so much for sponsoring the show on that. And if you're a new listener, please follow the show and continue to tune in. I think that's all the pleasantries. We should probably get into talking about what we're talking about and talk about what we're going to talk about.
There you go. Yeah,
that's it.
Well, the finale of the Book of Boba Fett was released last week, and my consensus as a Boba Fett super fan is it was everything I could have wanted. We'll talk about all our favorite moments and what's to come for the Mandoverse in the future.
Be on your guard. There are older and fouler things than orcs in the deep places of the world.
All right, then, keep your secrets.
Your coming to us is as the footsteps of do's.
There are many magic rings in this world, Bilbo Baggins, and none of them should be used lightly.
You changed your mind fast on how Book of Boba Fett was a terrible show. Well, no, not a terrible show.
It was a terrible show.
It was disrespectful to Boba Fett, and then you're completely okay with it now.
No, I said that it all came down, when I did my review of episode 5, I said it all came down to what the next 2 episodes did. Episode 6 still didn't do anything.
For Boba Fett.
So I was still holding out hope for the finale to make my judgment and consensus as to the whole series.
I don't think you remember how absolutely frustrated you were.
I was frustrated.
5.
You're absolutely right. But upon seeing the finale, it did what I needed it to do. It tied everything together. It gave Boba Fett what the treatment he deserved, and now I'm okay with it.
I guess it wasn't the journey this time, but it was the end.
The journey was part of that.
The journey was a lot of fun.
The end made the journey worthwhile.
All right, that makes sense.
Anyway, all right. Let's, before we get any further, let's get y'all's reaction, your rating on a scale of 1 to 10 knee rockets.
Knee rockets. There was a lot of fun knee rocket stuff in this. I'm going to go first. Are we just doing this episode or are we doing the whole series?
Well, okay, we'll do 2. One for just this episode, one for the whole series.
Okay, so we'll do the
first episode
first. Oh yeah, I'll give this one a 9. With that was a lot of fun. It was just it never stopped the entire way through. There was that one scene where there was a little bit of dialogue in the sanctuary, but other than that, it was just nonstop action from start to finish. It was some crazy stuff with we're joking about knee rockets, but all the other stuff that's going on, which I know we're going to end up talking about on this episode. So I'm going to try not to spoil it. Go BB Nate.
For episode, this is going to be a little bit controversial, but I'm going to give it a 7.5. Not that I didn't not like the episode. I did really enjoy it, but I honestly just think that it was like, okay, it was all action. If they could have found a better balance between the character development, because I feel like even though we had a lot of character development for Boba Fett, it would have been nice to have a little more transferring over to what he's going to be and not just he's going to have to fight. So overall, fun episode. Just I think it could have been more.
Okay. Do you want to wait on our finale, like the whole series episode rating until the very end of this segment and kind of do that and talk about the episode first? Okay, go for it. What about you?
Yeah, I'll give it a 9. It was everything I wanted it to be. I wouldn't give it a 10 just because, there's always room for improvement. But it was great.
If Han Solo showed up, it would have been a 10.
Honestly, if something like that happened, yeah, it'd probably be a 10. But not complaining. And
Bobo
interestingly,
rode a Rancor.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Why I almost gave it a 9.5.
Giddy up, baby. All right.
But after watching this episode, like you were saying, Nate, I was kind of thinking about like that line from Thanos in Endgame. He's like, perhaps I judged you too harshly.
Right.
But what's funny is I'm not the only one who felt this way. I was at school and I was talking to a couple of my classmates who I sit next to all the time. And I got their impression of the series before the finale, and they're like, it's all right. I'm a little bit, frustrated from the last 2 episodes, but we'll see. Very, very similar to what I was feeling. And then I met with them after they watched it, and they're like, yeah, that was great. I loved it. It was awesome. So I'm not the only one who was in that boat and had that same thing. But Boba was awesome, and he was everything I wanted him to be from the start of this series. He was flying around. I mean, we had talked about that as we were like right after we watched the episode. There was that scene when Mando and Boba fly out and they're just flying around, just shooting everybody. There's that one guy that like tries to shoot him and they're both just lighting him up as he's falling. I mean, it was everything we could have wanted. But most importantly, this episode wrapped up the whole series. Well, it connected each and every episode in some way. The Tuskens, the Rancor, Grogu, the Mando. I mean, literally everything. Matt worked in the end, except maybe, no. I was gonna say the episode with Slave One. He didn't use Slave One, but that was where the modders were and stuff too. And that came in. So this episode did what it needed to do in that it wrapped everything up.
Yeah, I really think that it does show that in Filoni we trust type situation with Star Wars when he's given the opportunity to help guide the whole story. And obviously he didn't write this entire thing, but he's just intricately involved with Favreau and with Robert Rodriguez in this series to put it all together. And, in the end, every piece of the story had relevance in that final episode. There were moments in this that it didn't have as much of a Purgles thing as the Purgles showing up from season 2, all of a sudden in season 4, so, being the solution to everything. But it was this big, curtain call of an episode where everybody from all of the different episodes came together and they all had a role in this finale, even going into what happens in the end credits scene or the mid credits scene on that. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I really loved everything with it. The Rancor riding was just so cool. But the best moment in the whole episode was when Grogu tamed the Rancor. That made the Ezra fan inside of me really happy to see beast taming again.
That's true, yeah.
And then just Grogu decided that he was tired and he took a nap next to the Rancor. He just gave it a pat and he's like, all right, right here. This is good. You're warm.
It did kind of remind me of like Natasha and Hulk. In this, hey, big guy, like
it what was so important about Grogu throughout this episode was the fact that he showed that attachments is what gives him power. If it wasn't for Mando, he wouldn't have been able to do the things he did. He loved Mando. He thinks of him as his father. And so he held people off. He saved Mando multiple times, and he tamed a freaking Rancor. That's so difficult.
Right.
So,
and it was also really cool to see that Grogu, that Baby Yoda, I just always want to call him that. Anyway, he's like, he has no fear.
No.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've seen this in some other stuff, and it's almost, you know, a childishness in The Mandalorian where he goes out and he does these battles and stuff like that. In this one, it didn't feel like that. No. I mean, if you're whatever the maturity level of Grogu is at this point in this story, which I don't really know.
He's older than you.
We know that. Yeah, that's hard to believe, isn't it? But we can't really peg down to like where he fits maturity level age wise because he isn't speaking, and that creates challenges for it. But that doesn't matter when there's a giant, 40-foot monster looking at you like he's going to eat you. It doesn't matter. There is no such thing as just childish, ignorance in this. He stood up to fear without any hesitation whatsoever because he loves Mando and he knew what he could accomplish, and he just did it. And I did remember in the episode thinking that is beast taming through the Force. That is very Ezra.
I was like, if Ahsoka finds Ezra, I want Ezra to teach Grogu all he knows in that area, and that would just be like,
that is cool.
The fan in me would just be screaming.
Yeah, I mean, it was great, and of course, I loved seeing Boba ride the Rancor.
Of course.
What more could you ask for at that point? But we even got to see the conclusion of the feud between Boba and Cad Bane in this episode. This has been a long-standing rivalry ever since the Clone Wars. So, this has been like 30 years going. But what did you guys think that this episode was a good ending to this rivalry?
I do think that endings to rivalries will never be satisfying for a lot of fans because it's the end of a rivalry, and especially on something like this because we haven't seen a lot of it. Very minimal interactions between them, and they have this giant rivalry, but it's mainly seen from a few episodes in Clone Wars and a lot in the comics. So we're kind of just gathering from that. But I think that for what we know and for what was built even in this episode, there was a lot of tension with the first standoff and Boba deciding not to do that. And then the second one, you felt the tension and the weight of the rivalry. And so I think that for what they did, it was a really well done ending for this episode. So Dave knew what he was doing.
I don't know if this is the end, though. Do you guys think that Cad Bane's dead?
But I think that his suit, his whatever that thing is, called out to somebody. So I'm wondering who that is really what's confusing me.
There's a couple different thoughts on that. We were talking on our Friday panel that we had with Lucas Pinkard from Reverend Reprobate, Pete Fletcher from Around the Galaxy, and Josh Sala from Marvel Let's Play. And that was a great episode, man. Those guys are awesome. No, it's not a shameless plug. I'm proud of that episode because those guys are amazing, and that was so much fun to have them on. So go back and check that one out if you haven't. But they were talking about where one person, I think Lucas suggests that it is sort of a beacon.
It is.
That's calling out, and Josh was under the impression that it may be some type of a life support system that kicks in.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was.
I don't think we're done with Cad Bane. I don't think that you create this character, you bring this character into live action in one episode and you kill him off in the next episode and just leave it at that. I don't know what that means. I don't know if someone's going to retrieve him, that there's a beacon, he's going to survive. You're going to have Thrawn, maybe. There is all of that. If you look at the photos of, go back and look at screenshots of Cad Bane in live action, it looks like under his coat, he's got an Imperial uniform on, and it looks like he's got Imperial ranking insignias on that. And so maybe he's working with Thrawn or something like that. Maybe Ray Sloan from the novels that everyone has sort of hoped would be brought into live action at some point as well. They could be retrieving him. He could be on life support and he could survive. you never know in Star Wars if somebody's dead. The week before, there was all this speculation about Cad Bane. It's the same type of a situation. Or Cobb Vanth. Yeah, Cad Bane is in this one. Yeah. Cobb Vanth in the last episode. And we know how that turns out with this. So I'd love to see him come back on that. Maybe it's a flashback. Maybe we see more flashbacks in future seasons of the Book of Boba Fett.
The Book of Cad Bane?
Yeah, it could be. Maybe we do like 2-3 whole episodes of the Book of Boba Fett season 2. That's just about Cad Bane.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
That would work. So,
but Dad, you were really convinced, even up until episode 6, that Crimson Dawn was still going to show up. That never happened.
Oh, it did. Yeah. No, see, the Pikes are still part of Crimson Dawn. And so in my head canon, Kira is still behind the scenes running everything.
Dad, just let it go.
No, it's the way it works. So
okay, well, just hypothetically, accept the fact that they didn't show up. Are you disappointed? Also, we didn't get any Han Solo either.
I have learned in the Disney era of Star Wars, again, here's like a mini dad moment, I guess, not the main dad moment, but anyway, you growing up with Star Wars, you got what you got, and you got 3 movies, and that was the story, and you moved on, right? And you didn't have a chance to speculate like this. And then in the Disney era, we've got Clone Wars stuff, we've got Rebels, now we've got all these movies, we've got these TV shows, and you create these theories and these headcanons, and you go from week to week trying to decide whether or not something's going to happen in the next episode or in the next movie and all of that. And in the Disney era, if you haven't learned anything as a Star Wars fan, you need to learn. Headcanon is great. Speculating is awesome. Do it. Have fun with it, but just hold it very loosely. When I woke up Wednesday morning, very early, 4 a.m., because I had stuff I needed to get done before we watched this episode, and I needed to know how long the episode was because you had to go to school. Both of you guys had to go to college classes and needed to know how long we needed to get up before watching it. When I got on social media that morning, just kind of to see to gauge the interest and try hopefully not get spoiled, and there wasn't much conversation going on at an hour after this thing aired. My initial reaction was, okay, there isn't going to be anything massive. There's no Luke Skywalker showing up to save Baby Yoda type moment in this. And so I was able to sort of let that go and then just enjoy the episode that we got. And it was a blast. And that is how you have to function as a Star Wars fan. Create the headcanon, have fun with the theories, speculate irresponsibly, but have enough presence of mind to call them predictions sure to go wrong, so that even if you really think it's going to happen, you can accept the fact that it didn't go the way that you wanted it to. And so, no, I'm not terribly disappointed. Do I want to see those things? Sure. Do I think that we could? Sure. But I'm not disappointed.
Well, I mean, that kind of begs the question, though, as to like what now with this series? I mean, there was no real setup outside of, the mid-credit scene with Cobb Vanth being alive. Mando, and Grogu are back together and doing their thing. Basically, it seems like back to square one, just with a little bit smaller of a ship. And Boba is ruling Mos Espa, and everybody seems to be cool with that. They respect him now, just like what he wanted. But what happens now? Is there a season 2? Do we get Boba and Mando season 3? I mean, we kind of expected Crimson Dawn to be the big bad guys and Mando season 3, but we don't have much direction right now. So.
We definitely will. I have a feeling we will see Boba in season 3 of Mandalorian. Mm-hmm. I feel super confident in that. I'm not sure if we'll get a Book of Boba Fett season 2. I do feel like in some ways this could be a one-off, at least for a while, like how they're waiting to do Loki for another year.
Well, actually, they just announced Owen Wilson just came out and said they're getting ready to start filming Loki season 2.
It'll be at the end of this year, early next year by that point. Okay. But I just think that if they're going to do season 2 of Book of Boba Fett, it'll be for a while that we'll see it again. But I do think that right now we're going to be seeing Mandalorian try his best to get back into the covert to follow the Creed again. So we're going to see him go to Mandalore. We're going to see him go to those mines. We're going to see him go through those trials.
He's going to get baptized.
And so will Grogu. We're going to see a little father-son bonding trip.
Does Mando like just like take off everything but his helmet and get baptized? Is that how it works in this?
Yeah, I don't think we have the answer to that.
Let's just
that
get a little
question. This could get weird. So let's not go. Yeah.
But we'll have like, you know, Din Djarin's Mando vacation going on in season 3. I think we'll see a lot of dealing with Mando trying to figure out, okay, well, should I let Grogu use his force powers? If so, how do I control that? How do I fix that? How should I keep him safe now that he's more powerful than me? I'm not a part of a covert anymore, so he's being hunted by all sides. He has the Darksaber. What does he do with that? There's a lot of questions we have now, and we do have a lot of direction of what's going on. It's just we don't have direct direction from Book of Boba Fett.
I do think, BB Nate, though, that your theory, I know we talked about it on the last episode, of Boba Fett becoming the Nick Fury of the Mandoverse. I think that actually is what's happening.
I do too.
That's what happened in this last episode. Yeah. All of these different sort of disparate characters came together and rallied around freeing Mos Espa, freeing Tatooine, working underneath Boba Fett's leadership. He did that. I do think it's interesting. You know, I don't know whether or not we get a season 2 of this.
Yeah.
They did call this officially the season finale. They didn't call it the series finale. So I think they have the door open. I don't think that there's anything more on that than them leaving it open in case they decide to do another season with it. But there is this moment at the very end of the episode where Boba Fett and Fennec Shand are walking through the streets of Mos Espa, and they're talking about, you know, people are bowing and he's bowing back and all of this. And there's this conversation about he doesn't know if he's really cut out for this, for leading this and everything that's going along with it. And then we go to the mid-credits scene, and you have the Marshal in that. I'm trying to remember. I think it might have been Josh Sala from Marvel Let's Play on our reaction episode, or a panel that we did Friday, talked about this. But he suggests, somebody on the show suggested at least, that Boba Fett is going to actually concede the rulership of Tatooine to the Marshal, to Cobb Vanth, because Cobb Vanth has proven himself as a leader of people. So much so that in his near death, his Freetown rallies around him and comes to Boba Fett's aid because they knew that's what Cobb Vanth wanted them to do with this. And so all of that comes together. So now Boba Fett's he's now free to get in the Slave One, fly around the galaxy, take his crew, do all the stuff that's going on, be a part of the Mandoverse without having to worry about Tatooine, and the Marshal becomes the ruler over Tatooine.
I really like that.
And that's what we see going on there. I like that idea. And that does end up bringing that story to a close and bringing it all together with that. So
there are ways that we have to handle that, though, because if Cobb Vanth has been kind of a character that's really been praised in this series. A lot of people have loved him. I've loved him. I love his character. I was so disappointed when he got shot, and now I'm happy he's alive again. But if they do a season 2 and they wrap it up like that, I'd like to see more. I'd like to see his stories. So do we get another series following Cobb Vanth, or do we just get a cameo every other episode?
No, I think that if we go to Tatooine, we get to interact with Cobb Vanth as the leader of Tatooine. But I think that they want to get off of Tatooine. That's one of the concerns even going into the Obi-Wan Kenobi series is we're going back to Tatooine. We've got more episodes on Tatooine. Everybody seems to go back to Tatooine. You know, it's like everybody wants to go back to Jakku kind of, but it's Tatooine now in the Disney Plus era. And so I think that when we go there, Cobb Vanth is a part of the story, but we aren't tied to the story being on Tatooine anymore because Boba Fett's now free to leave and go across the galaxy and do whatever.
Yeah, unless they decide to make the graphic novel of Cobb Vanth.
Huh?
It's like the Book of Boba Fett.
Oh, okay. I didn't get it. Sorry.
That didn't work.
Yeah, it didn't work at all. So
anyway.
All right. Well, I guess that's going to do it for, I mean, are you done?
Yeah, no, you got your...
Okay, so good. Let's go ahead and do a little bit of a dad moment here.
I am your father.
All right, so the beautiful lesson of the Book of Boba Fett is the power of second chances. Now, we've seen redemption stories and arcs in Star Wars a lot, but Anakin's story ends on the second Death Star right after it starts, really, or after his redemption. And Ben Solo's life is sacrificed to save Rey right after his redemption as well. Boba Fett is different. Boba Fett literally gets resurrected from a fate worse than death in the Sarlacc. He's rehabilitated both physically and kind of spiritually on the sands of Tatooine. And he comes out on the other side a changed man. But there are still consequences from his past. His past. Cad Bane is a symbol of this. His history with his nemesis nearly costs him his life. And the lesson of the Book of Boba Fett is that we can change, but it doesn't mean that our history disappears. It will be really interesting, I think, going forward with this character. And I think we're going to see a lot more Boba Fett in the future to see how he continues to play this out in future stories.
Well, Book of Boba Fett has finished for now, and it's a little bit bittersweet because we won't be getting any Star Wars for a while, but this series was a lot of fun, and it was a love letter to Boba fans all over. It took some time to build, like any good story, but the final product was a fun character piece that felt Star Wars all the way. Colorful speeders and all.
I like the colorful speeders.
Me too.
I was a big fan of those. So anyway, all right. Well, it's time for some bad news, and we have a new source this week on our bad news segment, and it claims that Star Wars fans are complaining about Star Wars.
No.
Go figure.
This is not going to go the way you think.
So we're recording this on Valentine's Day, and we're not really doing anything for Valentine's Day. I took Mom to a movie on Friday night. We went to dinner and a movie. Our tradition has become, we go to the store on Valentine's Day. We go to the card aisle. Mm-hmm. We find cards. We give them to each other, and then we put them back on the rack instead of spending $8 per person on a card that we're just going to throw away. And it was kind of fun because I gave her like 3-4 cards.
That's good.
You know, I can pick like funny ones and sappy ones and inappropriate ones. We won't talk about that on here. Anyway, but you guys, Saturday night, you went and did a banquet.
Oh, we did.
Oh, yeah.
That was cool. And you guys, I don't know about, did you wear cufflinks?
I did wear cufflink stuff. I didn't wear cufflinks though.
Well, that shirt's still dirty. But anyway, what'd you wear?
I wore Batman tie bar.
Still doing that, huh?
Yes, sir.
He's got to do it until the Batman comes out.
Never.
Even on Sunday, you did the same thing, didn't you?
No, I couldn't because the other shirt, the shirt I wore Saturday night, wasn't clean. So I had to wear a blue shirt. So I wore my Spider-Man tie, but I still wore Batman socks. So
okay, so you had some Batman on. What about you, Samuel Hutt? You wore on Saturday night?
Yeah, I went all out. I wore my red Spider-Man tie, and I wore the gold Spider-Man cufflinks, which I love those cufflinks. Those things look so cool. They're a little bit tough to get on, but once you figure it out, it's worth it.
Just it takes some skills.
I'm not as skilled as Kingpin is.
That's true.
And then I wore the Spider-Man socks to go with it. I mean, it was red and it looked cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I didn't go to the banquet that night. I stayed home. What did we do? What did we do? I don't know. Anyway, we watched shows. But yeah, and then church Sunday, you wore something. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Nathan already said about his. What did you wear yesterday? You went to church with Savannah.
Mm-hmm. I did wear my my Mando socks though, and her mom, Miss Kathy, even noticed them and thought they were cool too.
Yeah, so. I didn't have any stuff yesterday on. I got to go preach at a little country church. It was really awesome. These sweet little people up there at this country church it was awesome. They just were so kind. It was an awesome experience.
Was it awesome?
It was awesome. We did that. But yeah, then we came back and watched the Super Bowl, and I know we joked about it a little bit earlier, but we talk a lot about Star Wars stuff and Marvel stuff and even Batman DC stuff as far as cufflinks.com goes. But if you are a sports fan, you need to make sure you check out cufflinks.com. And again, congratulations to the Rams. Congratulations even to the Bengals for getting there because the Broncos can't even get into the playoffs. So I can't congratulate them. But if you are a sports fan, you're going to be able to find ties and cufflinks and socks and everything that you can imagine on cufflinks.com. They've got a ton of stuff there.
Yeah, I mean, they've got over 3,000 different items. And again, they don't just like their name would imply. It's not just cufflinks. They've got your ties and your tie bars and your socks and
money clips. Yeah, for all you straight cash homies.
Straight cash. Yeah, but I mean, they lots of other cool things.
For
in all cash. all of your fandom.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, if you're gonna go there and you're gonna load up your cart with it, find all the different stuff that you want there.
Yeah, and you got to save money. So use the code Tatooine15 at checkout to receive 15% off everything on the site with no minimum order required. So you can just go crazy.
Whenever I hear that 15%, I always think of Geico,
Geico?
but that's not what this is.
No, we're
This
not
is something
sponsored by
better on
Geico.
that.
Although that would have been a great segue.
It would have, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We're talking about cufflinks.com. So order your cufflinks.com stuff. Go over to the cufflinks.com today and make sure you use that code Tatooine15 at checkout.
Well, you want the bad news or the really bad news?
All right, headline one: Star Wars fans aren't excited to return to Tatooine in Obi-Wan Kenobi, which is sort of a play off of what we ended up talking about just a little bit.
Just a tad.
I feel like that was kind of intended.
Yeah, I kind of brought it up based on that. But anyway, this is from, strangely enough, from comicbook.com. We'll talk about that in a second. But this week saw the close of one Star Wars series set mostly on the planet of Tatooine and the premiere date announcement of another in Kenobi that's coming May 25th, which is a celebration for a lot of different reasons. The first and foremost being it's Grammy's birthday.
Woo! Happy birthday.
It's also that this year going to be the 45th anniversary of the release of the first Star Wars film. And while I'm sure there are some Star Wars fans genuinely complaining about the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, this is Star Wars after all. Anyone who spent time with, kind of objectively gauging reaction on the social networks will tell you that this headline from comicbook.com, and I said it on their post on Facebook, I told them I felt this way, is the worst in clickbait garbage. Fans took to Twitter and Facebook and Instagram to celebrate the announcement that the Kenobi series would be premiering on, as I mentioned, the 45th anniversary of the release of Star Wars. There really hasn't been any noticeable complaining about this series. Instead, it seems to be one thing that nearly all Star Wars fans are looking forward to, strangely enough. The criticisms that are actually noted in this article, as I went through it, are easily seen as sort of humorous pokes at the planet of Tatooine. It's not really a complaint about getting Kenobi or even the setting of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. And because I expect more from you, comicbook.com, I'm going to go ahead and just give you a full-on clickbait level 10 because I was a little disappointed in that article.
Just a little?
A little bit. A lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, Lucasfilm is reportedly trying to rebuild the Jedi Order and change everything. Essentially, this is a long article laying out the Jedi prohibition on attachment and why it doesn't work. And way down in the end of the article is this quote from Joanne Robinson, who used to write for Vanity Fair. The quote says, "I've heard whispers on the wind. This is indeed something Lucasfilm is interested in. Just more broadly rebuilding the Jedi Order. A Star Wars story where somebody actually tries to rebuild the Jedi religion as one that allows for attachment." That's cool.
Under Baby Yoda.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But Robinson then goes on to say what most Star Wars fans have learned over the years. A rumor about a project in development means nothing. Quote, but we should be clear, you can fill many football stadiums with all the ideas that Lucasfilm have thought that they wanted to do, but then didn't end up doing, right? So that doesn't mean this is going to happen. So it's an idea that's been kicked around potentially. And that's all. So this one's getting a clickbait level 8.
Right, yes. All right. There we go. BB Nate.
Headline: Marvel rebooting its worst Netflix series? Question mark. No trusted and proven sources from Giant Freaking Robot this week. Instead, the source this headline from an article on Geekosity.com that sources another article from itself that builds the entire story off of a quote from Michelle Yeoh. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. About Shang-Chi, describing her character as the keeper of a mythical city. Yeoh goes on to talk about magic and other elements that are obviously from the film she starred in, not about the Netflix series Iron Fist. But that doesn't stop Geekosity from speculating that she's actually talking about a reboot of the Netflix series. The clickbait level is 9.
And that's their worst series, is apparently Iron Fist.
Yes.
That makes no sense. Some people might like Iron Fist.
No, Iron Fist is generally considered the worst of all the Netflix Marvel series.
Wow.
With that. All right. It's my segment now.
It is.
All right. Well, we're not the kind of podcast you go to for super Easter egg breakdowns of all the latest trailers. And we really don't do the whole trailer reaction thing. We've tried it. It's terrible on an audio only podcast where you're just like listening to it and going, ooh. Anyway, but we can't skip our favorite trailers from this past week. And there were a lot of them.
Hokey religions and ancient weapons are no match for a good blaster at your side, kid.
Rebellions are built on hope.
Force is with me, and I am with the Force.
If you live long enough, you see the same eyes in different people.
So did you guys pay any attention to the Netflix teaser that
Yeah,
played
I did.
during that with that whole little they had a segment on the end about that new
Adam Project.
That looks
It looks
good.
really- I watched the whole trailer. It looks fantastic.
They have a whole trailer out? I haven't seen a whole trailer.
Oh, yeah. It's like a 3.5-minute trailer. It looks absolutely fantastic.
We'll have to watch it after the show is done recording because that's not part of what we're talking about, and I haven't prepared for that. But anyway, all right. So instead of doing, we're not like I said in the teaser for this segment. Not going to do massive breakdowns. We're going to have plenty of time to talk about Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and we need to talk about that. There's way more than we could cover on this from that, but I want to get reactions. We're going to talk about 4 different trailers. A couple of them are for TV series. A couple of them are for movies. Let's start with Jurassic World Dominion. This one actually came out online a couple of days earlier.
But they played the full thing during the Super Bowl.
But they did play the full thing during the Super Bowl, which I thought that was a kind of a wasted thing to do. But anyway, if you're going to release it online 3 days before, just release it online. But anyway, reaction to that trailer. We'll start with you, Sam.
Yeah, I was really excited after seeing it. I saw it early as well when they released it online. But them just showing how the dinosaurs are everywhere in the world is really interesting because that's something we haven't seen in any movie before, except I guess kind of that one movie. I don't remember. Lost World. This is gonna do it.
The movie that shall remain unnamed.
The one we do not mention. Yeah. So I really was excited about that.
Yeah. What about you, BB Nate? What did you think about that trailer?
I'm really excited for this movie. I've loved the Jurassic World series ever since I was a kid. I had a birthday party for Jurassic World. I love this series. I love the characters, and I feel like it's just a lot more. For some reason, I feel like it's scarier and a lot more fun than the original trilogy. So I'm super excited to see what they do with this. Just judging by some of the lines in the trailer, though, I think that Chris Pratt's character is going to die.
Oh no!
So
yeah. What makes you think that?
Well, when the chick says, I forget the names. It's been so long since I've seen the movies.
When Bryce Dallas Howard, the amazing director of so many different Star Wars episodes now.
But when she says, "Come back to me," and he says, "I always come back,"
that's usually bad.
Yeah, that's usually a bad sign.
I think it's cool that. Well, I'll save that.
You'll say that? Is that later?
Yeah, I'll say.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Surprises in the trailer. BB Nate, surprises.
I mean, there weren't many surprises. I was, of course, happy to see Alan Grant and Ellie Slatter back in this movie, and Jeff Goldblum, and all the original cast is really returning. Even the Doctor from the original movies.
BD Wong's playing.
BD Wong. It's a lot of fun. It feels like a culmination of both trilogies. It feels like it's going to be just a really fun, yet definitely the scariest so far. It's just going to be really cool. I'm so excited for it.
What about you, Sam? Any surprises?
Yeah, that was a big surprise for me. The original characters.
You didn't know they were coming back? Really?
No, I didn't.
Oh, it was announced a long time ago.
I think I may have heard of it, but I never really remembered it. So that was a big surprise for me, which is exciting. I'm really excited to see that back. And I agree. I think having all of the characters in this movie helps with it feeling like a finalized ending. It really feels like, all right, we're done with the Jurassic series. This is it. And I think it's going to be a satisfying ending.
I kind of loved when any of the scenes that looked like Chris Pratt was out on the range.
Yeah.
Wrestling up some dinosaurs, rounding them up like buffalo or something like that. That was what it felt like on that. Excitement about this movie after seeing this trailer. Is it higher, lower, or holding? You go, Sam.
Oh, higher. 100%. Yeah. I mean, again, like I said, seeing how dinosaurs are everywhere out in the world is such a cool setting, I think. And knowing the original cast coming back, I mean, all of it makes for, I'm real excited for this movie.
All right, BB Nate, what about you?
My excitement was already really high, especially after seeing the prologue before Fast and Furious 9.
Which was so good.
Which was such a good prologue.
The whole reason we went to Fast and Furious 9.
I know, you can actually find the whole prologue online now, but it was such a fantastic whole clip, and then they released this trailer, and it just made it so much better. My excitement is definitely higher.
Really?
And I'm so excited for this movie. And Michael Giacchino's doing the soundtrack, and the trailer music was fantastic
Which is a really interesting thing to have happen because, the original themes were and the soundtracks were all John Williams. And now you get Michael Giacchino, which you guys are super fans of this guy. You think he's this generation's John Williams, don't you?
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, I think he's not that he's better.
No.
Or even equal John Williams.
Just John's
generations. John
Okay.
Williams.
All right. So we're excited about that.
Yes.
Okay. Or that movie. All right. Let's talk about this series coming out just at the end of March. So a little over a month, like 5-6 weeks away. Moon Knight is a short spot. It was like a 30-second TV spot on that. We'll start with you again, Sam. Reaction to the Moon Knight TV spot.
Oh, I mean, it was awesome. So I was over at a Super Bowl party with Savannah. And I was kind of looking around at the commercials at this point. Not really. Not really paying too much attention to stuff. And I see that Moon Knight comes on. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I mean, we'll probably have seen this before. And then I keep seeing like a little bit of a new clip show up and another new clip and another. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like all new footage. And I mean, I'm sure one of us is going to talk about this here in a second, but when he like jumps off the roof and his cape does the moon thing.
Yeah.
It's like, I didn't think we'd get that in the series, let alone see that in a trailer. So I was super excited with that.
That's interesting. What about you, BB Nate? Reaction to the trailer?
Yeah, it was really cool. Anytime a trailer came on during the Super Bowl, I was also at a Super Bowl party for the youth at our church, and anytime a trailer came on, I would just yell, "Hey, be quiet!" I made 12 kids shut up because trailers were coming on. I was definitely not the life of the party, but this came on, and I was in awe of how in 30 seconds they revealed so much new stuff and gave us a better feeling of the tone of this series a lot. And I'm super excited for it. And I can't wait to see what they're going to do with it. So
did you see the purple magic coming out of the purple stuff coming out of the pyramid at Giza? At the very moment that Ethan Hawke's character, and I can't remember what he's called right now, and I know that
we're gonna get blasted.
I'm a bad fan for that. But anyway, he's literally saying the words chaos. There's chaos within you.
Chaos.
Guys, that's chaos magic. Yep. That is Agatha Harkness purple magic.
And that's going to tie into House of Harkness.
It is going to tie all of this stuff together. It's going to be cool. Surprises in the trailer. We'll go back to you, BB Nate. Surprises in this TV spot.
Honestly thought that they wouldn't do this because it's a little campy, but they brought back the Moonerang. He has a Moonerang, which is awesome.
Did you just say the word Moonerang? Is that a thing?
It's not what it's actually called, but it honestly, it works. It's like
kind of like the Batarang.
The Batarang, but it's a Moonerang. I saw it, and I did, the whole Leonardo DiCaprio.
The pointing.
I did that. I did that. I'm like, it's a Moonerang. I texted Sammy immediately. He was like, bro, that Moon Knight trailer. I'm like, the freaking Moonerang was in this TV spot. I was so excited. That was definitely the high point of the whole trailer for me, because I honestly thought that would be way too cheesy and campy for the show.
It worked. I didn't know it was called that, but I was freaking out when I saw it. So.
Yeah, it's great.
All right, Samuel Hutt, surprises.
I mean, aside from the cool cape move, honestly, getting more of the villain was
his tattoos.
Yeah, like weird. Moving tattoos. I don't know what that has to do, but I mean that, and seeing just even more of the fractured mind of I'm forgetting his name.
Mark
Steven.
Steve.
He's called Steven
Spectre.
Yeah.
Something. Anyway, that guy. Seeing more of his fractured mind.
He doesn't even know his name.
Right. Was interesting to me. So yeah.
Okay. You're hyped for this series now that you've seen this latest TV spot. We'll go back to you first, Nate. Higher, lower, or holding?
Oh, it's higher. Specifically because of the tone that we got. And Sammy and I have been watching more and more Daredevil, and it's starting to feel like it's going down that slightly more grounded, darker path of the at least the fight scenes. And it kind of feels like that. We're going to that point, and I'm super excited to see what they do with that. And I can't wait for this movie. March is going to be such a good month for
TV series. It's a series, not a movie. Anyway, Samuel the Hutt, excitement level, higher, lower, or holding?
I mean, I'm with Nathan a little bit. I do feel like it kind of feels like Daredevil in the grounded side of things, but it also feels very MCU with the magic and the supernatural, which is what we've become accustomed to in the MCU. So it feels like it's going to be a good bridge between those two things. And with all of that, it's going to fit really well into the MCU. So I'm excited.
That's awesome. All right, you've been waiting for this one, Sam, for a while.
Finally, we're going to be able to use your intro for the right thing.
Exactly. Well, we just do it for each other. That is something that probably should get an explanation at some point in the future. But anyway, Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. We'll let you go first on this one again, Sam. Reaction to this one. You were excited?
I mean, it wasn't much, and that's okay. I'm excited for it just that it's Lord of the Rings. I wasn't able to get super excited for it by like pointing out things I recognize because I'm not all that familiar with the story before the Lord of the Rings, which I think is a good thing for me. I know a lot of, I mean, it can be tough if you've got a headcanon to things, but I don't know anything. So it's all of it's exciting. It's new in Lord of the Rings. And I mean, some of those shots there towards the end look phenomenal. I think it's going to be a great addition to the Lord of the Rings.
Follow-up question. Did it feel like Lord of the Rings?
Absolutely. That's the first thing I thought when I saw it, is it feels like Lord of the Rings.
Okay. All right, BB Nate, what is your reaction to that trailer?
I was really surprised by it. Honestly, it was showing up, and I was confused because they definitely were like, we can only pay for a 1 minute TV spot, so let's just make it a 1 minute trailer. But the stuff that they put in really showed how this series is going to be like Lord of the Rings. There were so many moments that it just felt like Lord of the Rings, like when Galadriel was just riding across on a horse across a field, just felt like Lord of the Rings. It felt like The Hobbit, and so it was definitely. Everything felt right, and I was super excited to see that. And honestly, they seems like they're starting to use some of the soundtrack as well from Howard Shore in the end. They got a little bit of a motif there for a tiny bit, so that's also encouraging that they did that. But honestly, it was a surprise that this trailer was as good as it was going to be because it was super worrying.
That's cool. All right, surprises in it, BB Nate.
First of all, we got a TV-14 confirmation, which
is that a surprise? Or
yeah, honestly, it is a surprise. I was really worried. I know that the interview came out where he said it wanted to be for preteens, but still, it's a little worrying about it. But we got that, and that's super encouraging. Galadriel is just a warrior in this, which is something I did not expect from what I saw in Lord of the Rings. I saw a really crazy, weird white lady that yelled at Frodo and scared the crap out of me when I was a kid.
That is a freaky scene.
It's a terrifying scene. But she's like climbing frozen ice waterfalls and just doing
she looks
all
like
this
a beast,
awesome.
man.
She does,
yeah.
and I'm super excited that she is definitely the main character of this series.
Yeah.
And I'm super excited to see more of her.
That's cool. What about you, Samuel? Had any surprises in it?
I mean, we didn't get really any plot whatsoever, which is not a bad thing, but we didn't see anything about Sauron in any way, his evil form or the form he takes when he, goes to the leaders and presents the idea of the rings. None of that, which is surprising to me. I don't know if they're holding that back on
I think
purpose.
they're trying to keep him more mysterious and as a villain, just trying to up the scare factor of him because he is a frightening character. So I think they're trying to up that.
Yeah. So I think that was a big surprise.
I don't know why, but I didn't expect to see hobbits, and we got a hobbit.
We didn't get a hobbit.
Yeah, we did. We did
I
get
didn't
a hobbit.
see a hobbit.
No.
Yeah,
when was there
we
a
did
hobbit?
get a hobbit at the very end, the one that's holding the hand of the.
Oh, you think that's a hobbit?
Is that a hobbit?
That's a hobbit. I
thought
guarantee
that was
you
a
that.
child.
Nope, that's a hobbit.
All right. Well, I'll take your word for it.
All right.
You wish.
It is. It's a hobbit. I think that the narrator is a hobbit in this. I think it's a hobbit telling the story, just like Bilbo.
writing a book.
I do. I believe that. All right. Excitement about this after seeing the trailer. We'll go with you first, Sam. Higher, lower, or holding?
Higher for sure. I mean, we didn't really have much to go off of before this, except for a few pictures that were released not long ago. So getting some actual footage is always exciting. I mean, I even got excited after the title release was a big deal. They're really keeping things under wraps at the moment. So I'm excited for now, and I can't wait for more details to come out.
All right, BB Nate, higher, lower, or holding on your excitement level?
Yeah, mine's definitely higher. Just the whole series is starting to, of course, it's a worry for everybody of how the series is going to turn out, but it's seeming to shape up really well. I mean, it was so cool. There were so many cool moments, like the elf catching the arrow and then shooting it back.
Right.
It was just, it felt like Lord of the Rings. It felt like Legolas was doing that. It was awesome. I'm super excited to see where this series goes.
Very cool. All right, here's the one that everybody's been waiting for, and we're never going to have enough time to talk about it all. So let's just kind of keep it pretty surface level on this episode. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. We'll start with you this time, BB Nate. Doctor Strange is your boy.
He is.
With this, after seeing this trailer, what was your reaction?
I was So I saw the TV spot actually first. I was walking through the house and I saw Doctor Strange on the TV, and I was in the middle of a conversation and I walked away from the conversation in the middle of it to watch the rest of the TV spot. And I saw a full trailer online and I'm like, no way they released a new trailer. And I just walked outside without letting anybody know. And I watched the entire trailer. People were looking at me like, why is he just standing outside? But I watched it and I'm like, okay, fantastic trailer. I cannot wait to see where this goes. Sam Raimi it feels completely different from anything he did with Spider-Man. It feels very MCU, which is something I was really worried about because the Spider-Man trilogy, we all agree, it's not like...
It has a different feel for the MCU. It does have
a very different feel from the MCU, but he is putting his own vibe into it. You can tell that he is putting his fingerprint in it, but he's also making it just feel like Doctor Strange, and it is awesome. And immediately when he talked about dreams, I thought of the young adult book that I picked up from the library just on a whim and read, The Fate of Dreams, and it was a fantastic book. And right as Doctor Strange 2 was announced and a few plot details were announced, I'm like, this book is definitely an inspiration for what they're doing, and it seems like they are. And I'm so
I don't think
excited.
we've heard that from anywhere, but you feel like it's
definitely. Fate of Dreams was not a big book, but it was a fantastic book, and everything seems to be pointing to it because dreams are a huge part of that.
That's true, and it even opens up the entire trailer talking about dreams.
Exactly.
With its Samuel Hutt reaction to the trailer.
Oh, I mean, it was awesome. I mean, there were so many cool little moments that we had kind of gotten bits of from the first trailer that was at the end of No Way Home, but a lot of new details and some big surprises that we'll touch on in a second. But it feels like a Doctor Strange movie, which is what, I personally wanted. I didn't want it to feel like an Avengers movie because Doctor Strange had a very specific feel.
The original
Doctor Strange. And this feels like it, but to an even grander scale. And I'm excited for it. I'm not sure how America Chavez, right?
Yes.
Fits in exactly.
She can control the multiverse. She has multiversal powers, yes.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. I thought she was just a girl who's strong and punch stuff. Okay, now it makes sense, and we're cool. Okay. But I was just confused on that. So, but that aside, I think it looks fantastic.
All right, surprises. We'll start with you, Samuel the Hutt.
I mean, I'll just get it out of the way here. I think it's kind of the elephant in the room, but that's got to be Professor X.
It's Patrick Stewart, at least.
Yeah, he's bald. He's wearing the suit. I mean, when is Patrick Stewart not bald? But it's got to be Professor X.
We saw leaked concept art a few weeks ago of these Ultron bots taking Doctor Strange.
Is this your surprise, or is this?
No. I'm just building on this to Professor X. And it's looking to shape up to be the same thing. So we're super excited about that. My surprise was the fact that they're bringing in so many of the animated stuff from What If. I mean, we saw in the poster that they released Captain Carter's shield is in the poster.
Yep.
We saw in the TV spot, we saw Zombie Wanda and Zombie Strange, both from What If. We also saw the classic Marvel editing, really bad. We saw them when they're breaking through the multiverse. We saw them break into an animated verse. Now, the thing is,
I didn't see it.
It's like split second frame.
Fast.
It's so fast. But thing is, it doesn't look quite like What If's art style. And I'm wondering if they're going to somehow bring the Spider-Verse into this, because it does look a lot like that.
Too much.
I saw Dinosaur. Are they going Jurassic World too?
No, honestly though, I wouldn't be surprised if they brought in a little cameo of the Spider-Verse just to put something in there, and then they can tie that into what's the title of the next Spider-Verse movie?
Across the Spider-Verse.
Across the Spider-Verse. It would make sense, honestly. And so many of the things in the trailer were great. I'm loving how Zombie Strange or whatever is going to be the villain of this whole thing.
Guys, do you realize that the fact that Professor X is in this and the setting in which he is, you guys know what this is. This is the Illuminati. And I'm not like in the weird conspiracy theory modern thing. Illuminati. It's the Marvel Illuminati. It's
not the one that Zuckerberg.
It's
I swear if they have a Zuckerberg cameo in the Illuminati,
anyway,
that'd be fantastic.
You've got in that you have they're the Earth's brightest, most genius people.
Makes sense.
And they're all the ones that are on Earth governing the multiverse. And they're bringing Strange before this because he has violated the principles of the multiverse over and over. And that's what's happening in this. And Professor X is on that in the comic books.
Madam Web?
No. Iron Man is on that in the comic books.
Black Panther.
Black Panther is in it,
which was apparently seen in the trailer.
That's
Black
what
Panther.
Some people have suggested Reed Richards from the Fantastic Four.
sense.
All of these things that are right now happening in Marvel are a part of this. I think that's what we're getting. We are getting the Illuminati in this.
And there was an Illuminati eye. At least some people have said they've seen an Illuminati eye in the poster. So, I mean, that's kind of confirmation right
it
there.
makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
I think
they're
they
not holding
could
it
bring
back.
in a Madam Web too. I think it could fit. I mean, her whole thing
could.
is multiverse.
We'll see.
So-
Yep. We did surprises, right? Did you get a surprise?
Yeah. Yes, we did.
Yeah, I think-
Okay, we both did. Okay, all right. Excitement about seeing this, higher, lower, or holding. We'll start with you, BB Nate.
Oh, and the higher, of course.
That's hard to do.
It
because
is hard to
you've
do.
been,
I've been super excited for this movie because Doctor Strange is my guy. But I was also worried about this movie because they've gone through a director change, and I love the first Doctor Strange so much that I was worried that they were kicking him off of the second one and then bringing in Sam Raimi. And I was worried it was going to be a little too different from the first one, but it still feels a lot like Doctor Strange. I still have worries that Wanda is going to be too front and center for this movie and take away a lot of.
She did have
a lot of time
of story in this.
She did, and I'm worried that they're going to take a lot from Doctor Strange, and it's concerning because Wanda's a fine character, but I'm here for Doctor Strange, not Wanda.
But the best line of the entire trailer is when she's talking about, you break the multiverse, you break all the rules, and they make you a hero. I break the rules, and I'm the villain. Or everybody thinks I'm evil in this. And then there's that moment where she's back in Westview in the house on her knees, and there's an evil version of her or some other version of her with she looks broken, like her face is scarred and all this other, and she's like, oh my, yeah, that was it. All right, Samuel, the excitement level for you, is it higher, lower, or holding?
I mean, it's been this way across the board so far, but definitely higher. I mean, that's what a trailer's supposed to do. It's supposed to get you hyped, and all of these trailers did that.
That's awesome.
But this one has got me especially hyped because there's all sorts of new stuff we're going to see.
Absolutely. Well, honestly, it feels so good to be a nerd.
Hey, man.
All right, now there's so much coming over the next year. We didn't even get to talk about any of the new DC content that's coming because they didn't release a trailer during the Super Bowl.
Well, they did.
Well, they released it before the Super Bowl because they realized they didn't need to do it during the Super Bowl. But anyway, it's honestly, what a time to be alive. So much fun. All right. Movie moments. That's where we're at, right? Yeah. We got 2 movies releasing this weekend that we've really looking forward to both of them. And we probably won't get a chance to see either this weekend, but we'll explain that next on Movie Moments.
At last we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi. At last we will have revenge.
2 new releases this week. First one, Dog. Literally, that is the title of the movie. The description, Dog is a buddy comedy that follows the misadventures of 2 former Army Rangers paired against their will on the road trip of a lifetime. Army Ranger Briggs and Lulu buckle into a 1984 Ford Bronco and race down the Pacific coast in hopes of making it to a fellow soldier's funeral on time. Along the way, they'll drive each other completely crazy, break a small handful of laws, narrowly evade death, and learn to let down their guards in order to have a fighting chance at finding happiness. The director, Channing Tatum. The cast is Channing Tatum.
Primarily.
Primarily, yes. The studio is United Artists, and it is rated PG-13 for language, thematic elements, drug content, and some suggestive material. Going, if we can, yes or no?
Well, I want to see this in
Definitely.
the theaters. What about you, Samuel?
Oh, absolutely. I think it looks great. It's going to be a
looks like
compelling
so much
story
fun.
and fun. Yeah.
All right, awesome.
I'm
We
so
just
excited.
may not be able to see it because of Pensacon, which we'll be busy with all weekend.
Yes.
Anyway,
This next one I've been looking forward to for so long and so many directors. Uncharted. It is about a street smart thief, Nathan Drake. Of course, I have an affinity for his name.
Yeah, you do, BB.
Is
All right.
recruited by seasoned treasure hunter Victor Sully Sullivan to recover a fortune lost by Ferdinand Magellan. Yeah, 500 years
Time
ago.
to go back and take geography again.
Right.
Okay.
Magellan.
That's an actual
500
person?
I'm sorry. For all
Seriously?
of you listening right now, I'm sorry. All right.
Can I continue?
I'll explain this to him afterwards.
Okay, let's go.
He's one of the greatest explorers of all time.
I did not. I thought that Christopher Columbus was the big one. That's all I got.
Can we continue?
No, this is good stuff. Okay,
All right.
go.
What starts as a heist job for the duo becomes a globe-trotting white-knuckle race to reach the prize before the ruthless Moncada Moncada, whatever it is, who believes he and his family are the rightful heirs. If Nate and Sully can decipher the clues and solve one of the world's oldest mysteries, they stand to find $5 billion in treasure and perhaps even Nate's long-lost brother.
Whose name's Samuel.
Yes, and is 4 years older than him.
What?
But only if they can learn to work together. The director is Ruben Fleischer. The cast is Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg. The studio is, of course, Sony Pictures. And it is rated PG-13 for violence, action, and language. Going, if we can, yes or no?
Absolutely going to see it when we can.
Definitely.
Oh, for
Just
sure.
not this weekend.
For sure. The box office numbers of this week, Death on the Nile, which was surprisingly good.
It was really good. We should just stop for a second. That movie was worth watching.
Oh, in the theater. Definitely.
It held my attention and I was exhausted.
Yeah. We were all exhausted. Really I was exhausted too. I almost fell asleep during the commercials, and then
not during the movie.
No, not during the movie. I was invested. It made 12.8 million domestic with a 33.5 million worldwide opening.
Next one, Jackass Forever. He won't say that word.
Yep. 8 million domestic and 47 million worldwide. They definitely made their budget back. And Marry Me made 8 million domestic. Yikes, 16 million worldwide.
I just think it's a mistake. It's another one of those films that they released on streaming at the same time.
Yeah, and with Death on the Nile coming out, and honestly,
it was a fine movie. Christy and I went and saw that on our date. It was, if you like Notting Hill and you like J-Lo's music and you think Owen Wilson is an amazing actor, a lot of fun, go see that movie. It's a fun movie, or watch it on Peacock because you can do it for free. And that's the problem. That's why it only did $8 million domestic. So anyway,
definitely.
All right. That's it. That was a fast movie moment.
It was.
Good job, BB Nate. All right, keep going.
Yes.
Do your segment now.
Yes, The Court of Owls was my introduction into DC Comics, and I haven't been the same since.
That was your introduction?
Yep.
I did not know that.
I just was at the comic store one day and cover looks cool. Let me pick that up. And I did. And all I want to see is them in the Batman, but I understand they aren't the most popular villains. So let me tell y'all about who they are.
Really?
Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight?
Yeah, I can fly.
I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
The people in this room, which one is A, wearing a spangly outfit, and B, not of use?
There's only one God, man. And I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that.
Batman has no limits.
I was at the comic store one day, and it was after, I was still in that period of Marvel's better than DC. DC will never live up to Marvel. And I was reading the Marvel comics, and I'm like, dang, Marvel does not do a good job on comics. So I was looking around, and I saw Court of Owls, and I'm like, that looks interesting. So I picked up the paperback, and I went home and I read it in one day, and I'm like, okay, DC has found their footing with comics. So,
and is this a Scott Snyder story?
Is. Okay, Scott
he's
Snyder.
Your favorite writer.
He's my guy. Well, Grant Morrison is my favorite.
So, do we need to explain why it's so important to talk about the Court of Owls right now?
No. I explained all of that.
All right, go for it. Let's go.
I got this all covered.
Then let's do it.
So I'm going to kind of give a description of who the Court of Owls are. The Court of Owls is a very vague group of villains in the DC universe, but they are insanely important to everything. They have existed for longer than even Gotham has. They built Gotham and have run it from the shadows ever since. They recruit and communicate by a nursery rhyme that goes, beware the Court of Owls that watches all the time, ruling Gotham from a shadowed perch behind granite and lime. They watch you at your hearth, they watch you at your bed, speaking not a whispered word of them, or the send the talon for your head.
All right, if you're going to do the nursery rhyme, you got to do it like a nursery rhyme.
I'm not going to rhyme it.
I'm going to do it this way.
Beware the Court of Owls. No, dude, it doesn't go like that. They don't sing it, no.
Well, let's wait. I'm going to do it.
No.
That watches all the time. I will, no.
No?
I'll rhyme it if it means that you won't sing it.
You just went through really fast.
Yeah, okay. I'll do it. Can I do it?
Yes, go ahead. As long as you don't sing it.
All right, I'll do it without it. Beware the Court of Owls that watches all the time, ruling Gotham from a shadow perch behind granite and lime. They watch you at your hearth. They watch you in your bed. Speak not a whispered word of them, or they'll send the talon for your head.
Why do nursery rhymes always have to have a morbid twist to them? Like every single one of them.
But it is a classic Gotham legend.
But that makes it feel like something that would be a nursery rhyme in Gotham, but that wouldn't make you think anything weird because I mean, Rockabye Baby is twisted, man. Ring around the Rosies. Yeah, anyway.
So. Yeah, but as a child, this can be pretty freaky and can make you think things. Yeah. But they have kind of two different people-ish in the court, the wealthy and powerful that run the court and decide everything that happens with Gotham. And then you have the Talons and the Owls, air quotes that you can't see on a podcast. They're a genetic mix between human and owl. Now, the Talons are master assassins, and the Owls are between human and owl. They just are disposable things, half dead, half alive creatures with no brain, really. They're kind of zombie-esque little things. They're really creepy. I
don't remember that.
Yeah, they're insanely creepy. So both of y'all have read the introduction story, the Court of Owls and City of Owls on this group. And what are your thoughts on the storyline and the group as a whole?
I mean, I'm going to be honest. I read this a long time ago. We were in Colorado last, so it's been a good couple years or more, and I don't remember it well. I do remember enjoying it, and there were moments where I'm like, wow, this is intense, which is, not a bad thing. I loved it. I thought it was great. I was already, familiar enough with Batman, but I'd never heard of this court idea, and I thought it fit into Batman's story perfectly. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it from the start. And I'm actually planning on trying to reread the story again. It's not too long. Just, how many issues?
It's about, I think, 12 at most.
So it's not a huge run, but a really, really good story.
Yeah, you guys turned me onto this within the last 6 months or so, and I downloaded it onto my tablet and read it on a flight when I was traveling and couldn't stop. I was super excited by this. I've read both stories. Which one are they? The
Court of Owls and City of Owls.
City of Owls. I read both of them, and they are fascinating stories, super intense. And I think I maybe have read those right before that first Batman trailer came out. And so when I watched that Batman trailer, the original trailer that came out a few months back, my mind immediately tied to the Court of Owls. There's so many things in the Batman that seems to tie, and it just seems like more and more that's been happening with it.
Exactly. So, but for those who don't know the whole story of the court, let me try to tell it as quickly as I can and how it could relate to the Batman. So I'm going to be kind of going off.
When he says the Batman, he means...
I mean the movie, the Batman. All right. Yes. So the story starts out with Bruce wanting to rebuild Gotham to be a better city, which is a rumored motive for Riddler in this movie, to rebuild Gotham. The court doesn't really like that since they didn't initiate it, so they stick a target on Bruce's head for the Talon to collect. Now, all of this is set during a mayoral campaign, which, again, might be happening in this movie too, but hasn't quite been confirmed.
And ties to that prequel book.
Exactly.
Because Bruce's father, Thomas Wayne, in the beginning, when he dies, he's running for mayor with that. So there's a connection there too.
Yes, there is. And a big location in the beginning of the story is Wayne Tower. And the Wayne Terminus is actually referenced in the story as a way for the court to get around since it connects all the subway tunnels in the city. Yes. So there are a lot of similarities happening right now, aren't there? There's so
I think that's what triggered it for me was the Wayne Tower stuff and the Terminus stuff in the original trailer. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. But the Talon attacks Bruce in the tower and a bunch of other detective stuff happens that doesn't really apply to the movie. But we do learn something very curious. Bruce's first case was actually trying to find the court when he was a child because he was convinced they were behind his parents' death.
Oh, yeah.
Now, we actually have no clue how Bruce's parents died in this universe. We just know that the killer is at large and was never identified or found. Do y'all think they make the court responsible for his parents' death in this universe, especially since Thomas Wayne was running for mayor?
I think it could happen, and I really, really hope so, because they said they're not going to really go into the origin story too much in this story. But the reason why is because it's so familiar. Everybody knows the story of Batman and how he became Batman, just like Spider-Man. That's why they've done it differently in the MCU, and it works. If they do it this way, it'll feel familiar and be fresh for all the fans of Batman. So people who are maybe new to Batman still can get into it, but fans who are familiar, it's this whole new story. I love that idea.
I do. As soon as we started talking about the prequel book and Thomas was running for mayor, my mind went exactly to this being the storyline of this. I don't think that they make this movie the origin story. I don't think they go back and do this.
They don't. No.
I do think that they bring the Court of Owls into it and set that up for the future, which is similar to kind of what they ended up doing in No Way Home, where they make that something that happens later on. I think we find out about it later on, but it's not the same as, the thug outside the movie theater. There may be a thug outside the movie theater, but they maybe have been sent by the Court of Owls. And I think that's where we
very possible. Now, after the court attacks Bruce and the manor, which is such a cool scene, I love that, the court decides to move on to another approach. Now, this is getting into purely speculation, as we know nothing about who or if there will even be a Robin in this universe. So I guess this is the prediction sure to go wrong part of this
All right,
segment.
there we go, BB Nate.
Now, in the comics, the court tries to recruit Dick Grayson into the court because apparently he was being raised to be a part of it. Eventually, he joined the court as a double agent. He learned that the court wasn't specific to Gotham City, but they have branches, see what I did there, around the world, and they aren't called the Court of Owls. They're actually called the Parliament of Owls.
Because a group of owls is called the Parliament.
Now, do y'all think they introduce Dick Grayson through the court in this universe? Also, Damian Wayne was a member of the court for a short period in the comics as well.
I think this is another great way, fresh way to tell a familiar story. He's not some orphan acrobat now that gets picked up by Bruce just because he felt sorry for him. It fits even more, and making this, it would make the court an even more centralized villain or antagonistic force in this universe. Love that idea. Yep.
I do like the idea of bringing them in there. I hope that it's... Here's where I want to. I think the Court of Owls goes. I think that the hope is, and now after even some of the initial critics' reviews are coming in, and they seem to be pretty excited with this movie. They're not just the critic stuff, but the studio seems to be excited about this movie. You don't release the have a special screening in IMAX 3 days before that is going to be public unless you are fully confident that public reaction for those people that are spending all that money to go to IMAX to do this are going to be like 100 on Rotten Tomatoes nearly. Right? That's what you want. And so they're excited about this. I think that they were hoping that would be the reaction. And because that is what they're going to get, that this is going to become the WB Batman verse with going forward. And they need a villain bigger than the Riddler. Riddler is the villain for this story. Right. There is a deeper story going on, a bigger villain, a bigger bad guy that's going to carry throughout all of this series, not just the films. You have Gotham PD, right? As a series that's coming on HBO Max. You have a Penguin series coming out on HBO Max. Do we have anything else that's been
Not that's been announced, but we're expecting more.
If we get more and more and more of this stuff, you've got to have a bigger villain than just your villain du jour, the villain of that episode or whatever.
And as you're saying that, I was trying to think through other superhero universes that we have currently, whether it's the current DC universe, the DC animated, Marvel. I'm trying to think, none of them really have this centralized antagonistic group that's underneath the surface for everything. Not one thing that I've thought of. And
you did early on in the MCU with Hydra, but they exposed Hydra becoming and Shield and all that stuff early on in the phases. And so then it became, you had to have something bigger. So then it became Thanos,
right?
And all of that, but you don't have like you're saying, that this centralized idea is not present.
Right. And so that I think will help set this movie series apart from just being another superhero franchise.
Definitely.
That's cool. I'm excited.
Me too. Do y'all have any crazy predictions for the
That was my prediction.
Movie?
I mean, it's more of a hope. I don't want to predict one way or another that's showing up. I desperately hope that it's going to happen. I'm going to try not to have too much of a headcanon with it. But if I were to have a prediction sure to go wrong, I think maybe we see like a Robin at the end or something.
Or a Joker character
but
shows up.
the thing is, we have no post-credit scene in this movie.
Which is good. It needs to not have that.
Yeah.
Because that is an MCU thing.
I mean, it has a little Easter egg in the credits, is what they said at the end of the credits, but still.
They don't need to have post-credit scenes. They don't need to try to be copying Marvel. They need to do their own thing, and I think that's what this is doing.
Definitely. Well, let's hope the Court is actually in this movie, and I would love it if they were the main villains throughout the whole trilogy. But the Batman... What?
We know there's 3 movies or something?
No, but they said that if they're going to be doing it, then it's going to be probably a trilogy. But the Batman is almost here. And with that, the answers to all our questions. And I cannot wait.
Absolutely. Well, this is good job, BB
Thank
Nate.
you.
Good job, Nate.
That was fun for you, wasn't it?
It was.
That's cool. All right. Anything else you guys want to talk about?
Anything else?
So Kit Harington claims he's clueless about his role in the MCU and still waiting for Marvel to call for Black Knight Return.
That's not bad news. He literally said that.
Yeah. So that's kind of weird.
Maybe because they aren't sure that maybe they kind of want to
forget Eternals.
Forget Eternals. No, I'm sorry. I know that.
Wow, you're being like the toxic Star Wars fan.
I know many of you love Eternals, and that's fine. And it's actually going to play a big role into some of the stuff I have a feeling coming up. But anyway,
yes.
Yeah, BB Nate.
DC has released a 2022 teaser.
We talked about this a little bit.
Glimpses at Black Adam, The Flash, Aquaman 2, and more.
What was your favorite moment in that teaser?
Gosh, there were so many. I loved seeing Dr. Fate. Pierce Brosnan is going to kill it. But I also loved seeing The Flash and his little lenses. Yeah. That was really cool. I'm super excited for this whole thing.
A news flash, StarWars.com is inviting you to Han and Leia's wedding in a new novel that was announced today, meaning the day we recorded this, which is Valentine's Day, called Star Wars: The Princess and the Scoundrel. And so for me, the first thing I thought of was The Courtship of Princess Leia, which was a Legends novel that came out shortly after the Thrawn trilogy, Heir to the Empire trilogy, and all that stuff. And it sounded like it was just the new version of that. But here's what's really interesting. A large portion of it takes place on a galactic star cruiser called the Halcyon. And they announced that today. So it is a complete tie-in to everything that's happening at the galactic star cruiser in the Galaxy's Edge with that. So again, we talked about this earlier, but on Friday, we're going to retell from start to finish, the 3 of us, in a special Friday episode, retelling the story of Turbis the Porg. And I want to hear it. I'm going to function in this as the interviewer, not the one telling the story.
All right.
And you guys are going to be the ones to tell the story, because I think your perspective will be a lot of fun for everybody here. So check that out on Friday. Thank you so much to cufflinks.com for sponsoring the show, and not just this episode, but sponsoring us since like all the way back in October. Thank you so much for all that you've done to support the show. We certainly appreciate that. Make sure you check them out. And for all of you listening, those of you that listen every single week and have, like we talked about earlier, allowed us to be, in the top 100 in our category on Apple Podcasts since January. Thank you so much for listening to Tatooine Sons. For all of you new people listening to it, thank you for being there. We hope you will subscribe and be a part of this. You guys are why we do all of this.
Yes, if you had a good time listening, it would be awesome if you could share this with your friends.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and of course, the show, it's only a small part of the Tatooine Sons world. So if you enjoy us that much, be sure to like us on Facebook and join our Facebook discussion group. And follow us on Twitter to get in on all the action and keep up to date with everything we got going on at TatooineSons.com.
And I know I mentioned it before, but follow the show on the podcast app that you're listening to us on so you don't miss that Friday's episode or any episode coming up. Give us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Podchaser.com or whatever podcast app that you prefer. Anything else that you guys are ready to say?
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you, always.
This party's over.
I like that Wookiee.
Don't get technical with me.
Join, please. Yep, yep.